Well, hello, everyone. Oh my goodness. I am so pleased to be here today on a gorgeous July 6th, 2020, and so excited to introduce my guest, Noreen Kolesar. And we're here today on the Expand Your Influence group and just sharing just the people that are involved in the event, which we're so excited. That's going to be happening here in Winnipeg live on September 19th and 20th, 2020. And we'll be giving you some information later on in the call on how you can join us. And for now, I want to just get right into introducing my guest for today, Noreen Kolesar. Hi, Noreen.
Hi, how are you today?
Yeah, really well. Just a gorgeous day here in Winnipeg, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Yeah, I love it when it's sunny. I mean, we only get a few months of it, so we are a breed of humans that are just, outside every day as much as possible. So I do appreciate you being here. Although I'm looking at your background, I feel as though I'm outside.
Yes.
In the ocean. Yeah.
Yep. It's sunny here, winter and summer with that.
Yeah, that's true. I've contemplated getting a really cool background. I might you inspire me. And I love the blue and the ocean and the sky. And yes. So to those of you that are watching, thank you for being here. And I want to tell you a little bit about Noreen and also how Noreen and I know each other and what Noreen's role is in the Expand Your Influence event that's coming up. As you know, for many of you, you've been watching these videos. And if you haven't, go back to watching some of the other interviews with some of the speakers that are going to be coming in here live. So Noreen and I, we met about 10 years ago. We're both part of a professional speaking organization called CAPS, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. We might have even met before that, Noreen, at an event.
I think so. I think we've known each other longer than that.
Yeah, and we both hit it off because one of the things that I'm very interested in, it just so happens you're also very interested in, is the brain. And how does the brain think? How does it work? A lot of my field of study is around the mind, but I'm also very curious about the neuroscience. And back when we met, as you know, neuroscience was a new field, very new. It wasn't even really talked about as much. So I was so intrigued with you and your topic. And now, I want to point out that you have been in business for quite a long time, and your business has always been around the brain. It's called Mindstage. And so one of the things that I want you to talk about a little bit later is this program you've developed. I am so interested in this 5-step, if I can use your 5 components that you have in your program to keep our brains fit for life. I love that. And how to stay sharp, how to improve our memory. Yes, who doesn't want that? And just the overall well-being, as we know that our mental health is just as important. Well, every aspect of our health is important. So I think the work you do is really, really important as well. And so I want to come back to that question after you share with us the one thing that I would love to know, because I don't think I know, and I know the listeners want to know, how did you get started? Like, what was going on in your life when you woke up one day or something happened? How did your business begin? Tell us about that story.
Well, it actually was more of an evolution when I think back. I, like you mentioned, that I've always been interested in the brain. Even back in school, I had a friend who could spell like every word. And I used to be so envious, like, how does your brain know how to spell all those words? And I was a terrible speller. But meanwhile, when it came to math class, I would be able to help her with her homework, because for me, math came easily. And so I was already aware that our brains were all different and that they operate and work quite differently. So from there, I just kept being interested in the brain and studying different fields of brain things like NLP and brain gym and lateral thinking. And, the list goes on with great people who have researched the brain over the years. I did a lot of work around creative thinking and how to be more creative, how to expand your creative thinking. But about 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer now, I've focused more specifically on how we can avoid dementia. And my mother-in-law developed dementia around that time. And many of us of our age have had family members that we've seen with dementia. And it's very challenging for us to know how to deal with it, to see
Mhm.
them knowing that they were very capable, intelligent, competent people. And now they struggle with day-to-day things. And often you see personality changes. So I switched my focus around more to what can we do to prevent that for ourselves? And that's where my main focus has been in the last few years.
Mm. Hmm. Was there? I'm curious. Was there any? I know you mentioned your mother-in-law had dementia. What impact did that have on the family? I mean, I can't imagine what it was like for her. To have that happen. But your market and who you serve are women who, if I could say, often care for elderly people with dementia, right? So, from your perspective as a daughter-in-law, what impact did that have on you?
Well, it was challenging at the time because if 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 you've ever dealt with somebody with early stages of dementia, it's not consistent. It's not a steady decline. Some
Hmm.
days the person is fine, and
Hmm.
some days they're not themselves. Their personality is changing, their capabilities are declining. And so when you arrive at their home, you don't know who you're going to meet. Are you going to meet the old, loving person that you once knew, or are you going to meet somebody who's maybe angry or hostile or depressed? It's just hard to know what, and then to realize that it's not within their control. It's their brain that's the problem. Their brain is got conditions that they can't cope with themselves.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it is challenging for the family. And then as we turn around and we think, that's not what I want for myself. And how can I prevent that? What can I do? Is there anything I can do to now so that I don't end up following that path in the future for myself?
Hmm. Yeah, so that's gonna, my mic was muted for some reason. Technical. To a little bit later to our, because I do want you to expand on the program you've developed. I want to find out, um, you know, in your experience working with people and helping them and giving them the tools that you give, what impact is it having on their lives? And in talking a little bit about how important this is, like, I think it's underrated. I think there's a lot of talk about the importance of brain health. However, I'm curious about, the importance of actually doing it, and the difference that it'll make in people's lives. If you can just share a little bit about that,
Sure.
individual aspect, the family aspect, the community aspect, even, and it goes even beyond into like countries and nations and the impact of mental health and the important work that you do.
Yeah, for a lot of people, when they start engaging with my material and so on, the first thing is that they're happy to find out that there's something that they can do,
Hmm.
that they don't have to leave it completely to chance, that there are steps that we can take. There's no guarantees, of course,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. I mean, things can still happen that are beyond our control. But on the other hand, knowing that we can do as much as we can make a difference.
Yeah.
And and that you fall on the right side of statistics, I mean, if you
Yeah.
do all the things correctly.
Yeah. So would you say, because my father had Lewy bodies
Mhm.
dementia, and up until the time that he was diagnosed, I had never heard of this thing called Lewy bodies. It was such an unusual name for starters. You think I would have heard it and remembered it because of its unusual name, at least for me. And then I started to learn about the structure of dementia. Is there's these two streams. One is the Alzheimer's stream, which has different characteristics than the Lewy bodies and the Parkinson's stream. If stream is maybe not the technical word, but do you go into, like, is there different factors that impact the brain that would lead into one of these, different kinds of dementia?
Well, there's many different causes for dementia.
Sure. Maybe you could even share some of those, because I think that'd be really interesting to the listeners.
Well, yes. However, in a lot of times I don't need to identify what kinds there are. Okay. The symptoms often are the same, and the causes are often the same.
Oh, what are some of the causes? Can you share?
Oh, sure. Yeah. One of the causes that I think is very relevant right now, as we're all in lockdown, is isolation, social isolation. And I sort of take exception to people using the word social distancing. I prefer the term physical distancing, because I think because for COVID, we definitely need to keep our physical distance, but being socially distant is a whole different thing. And I think we still need the social connection, whether it's, over internet or whether it's 6 feet apart. We still need to be socially connected to people. And if I can just sort of loop back to your event for a moment with regards to that, I know that it was originally scheduled for May, and you had to make the difficult decision about whether to postpone, how long to postpone, whether to keep it live or to go online. And I really applaud you for choosing to keep it as a in-person event, because there is so much benefit to being in a group. We're a social being, and it's critical. It's important. It's important for our brain that we connect socially with other people regularly. And so it's going to make your event so much better that we're all there in person and not online. Now, online is great, and we're online now, and there's benefits to online. And if it's what we can do, that's great. And so just getting back to the dementia, social isolation is a really big problem for people's brains, being alone and not having a network of friends or family that we can depend on. And so that's something very important that we can start doing now, is to cultivate our connections.
Yeah, you brought up something, because it to me it's twofold, but there could be even more in terms of the social isolation, in terms of having people that can support a person who is alone with all kinds of care, kind of thing, but also the social interaction and the brain wiring. We study mirror neurons and how humans mirror each other. So if you don't have that human connection, then I can see that part of the brain, and this is just my layman's understanding, kind of go dormant. And whenever anything goes dormant, in NLP, we look at, okay, when we have a space, something has to enter.
Yes.
So the brain goes, okay, well, we're not using this part of the brain. And so, it's going to go dormant, but something else needs to go in there. And the person will try and find a way to fill that void. And I don't know if that makes sense, but if they're not filling that void with positive reinforcement, positive thoughts, and positive self-talk.
Exactly.
You can see that being huge.
Yes. Yeah. And so there's incidences in history where people, or even in our current society, where people are isolated. Yeah. And if you want to look at our prisons, for example, where we put people in solitary confinement, it has a profound impact on their brain when they come out.
Well, it does. And what we're going through now, for some people who don't, because of circumstances, sometimes ended up being alone completely. And if they, some have a pet, which helps. Yeah, if you have a dog or a cat or any kind of pet that you can interact with, it certainly helps. So I want to come back to, and by the way, I want to mention, thank you for mentioning the event and the decision to host it live in September. Now, as you know, we're in one of the provinces that has a very, very low rate.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing really good there. And we're obviously going to cover, adhere to all the protocols. And we have an amazing hotel that is already, operating at a really high level. So I'm quite confident that if everything goes, the way we assume it will go, it's going to be amazing. And
Yes.
yes, to have that opportunity to be in person. I've already started to see other events in September as well. So thank you for mentioning that. And I didn't mention at the beginning that, Noreen, you are going to be one of our ambassadors.
Yes, I am so looking forward to that.
Yeah, which means you're going to be one of the people that when people come in, they're going to be seeing you at the door, greeting people throughout the event. You're going to be there supporting the speakers, supporting the attendees, answering questions, and also you will be doing some speaking and sharing with the audience what you do. So that's going to be great. And that leads us into I really am so curious to hear more about your 5 key components to keeping the brain fit for life. So can you share, either briefly all 5 or, maybe a couple that you think people, would want to hear about in terms of, keeping the brain fit? I know you also, your programs help memory, and I'm very curious about that.
Yes, well, obviously keeping your brain sharp
Yeah.
will improve your memory and keep your memory on top of your game, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the 5 things are, first off is movement. So you want to keep moving your body. And you may have heard the expression, it's sort of becoming more and more common now, is, now let me get this straight. Sitting is the new smoking.
Yeah.
And so sitting is not only bad for your physical health, but it is absolutely terrible for your brain.
Yeah.
And
So movement.
more movement. Yeah.
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 So what's one kind of suggestion, that somebody who may be sitting at a computer like a lot of people are?
Well, okay, there's a few things. Set a timer. And when the timer goes off, get up and move around. Find some little thing to do that won't, there you go. Whether it's maybe folding laundry, because you can still process your work while you're doing light housework sort of thing. Just go for a drink of water and come back to your desk. But set a timer and move regularly. Let's see, what else could we suggest? One of the best things, according to research, is dancing. So again, set your timer and get up and have a little dance. Just move around. Stretching is also really good. And it sounds funny because it sounds like I'm giving you ideas to keep your body fit, but really these are so beneficial to our brain as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I wanted to interject, if I could, is that you're also certified in the field of
Brain gym.
Brain gym.
Yes.
I was going to say brain fit. Brain gym. And brain gym really intertwines with the work that I do in NLP and the new code, as it's designed to incorporate both sides of the brain and both sides of the body. And this is key, isn't it, to full brain activation. So I really love that. And okay, so movement.
Well, I was just going to say, so in brain gym, there's not just the left and right, but we also talk about the front and the back and the up and down parts of the brain and integrating all of the dimensions.
All the movements. Yeah, left, right, up, down. Oh, beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
So movement's 1. What's number 2?
The next one is to engage in things that are fun for us.
Okay.
So that is quite an open area, because what's fun for you might not be fun for me and vice versa. But included in that category are, as we talked about, the importance of having family, friends, connections with other people. It's so important to be social. And I know some of us are more introverted and some of us are more extroverted. So we don't need to have wild parties to be connected with people, but we do need connections on a regular basis with intimate friends and family.
Okay, so I'll disagree. I think having a wild party once in a while is a lot of fun.
It probably is fun for everybody, but
Yeah.
maybe more so for the extroverted people than the more introverted ones.
Well, it's funny because when we go outside our comfort zone, so I'm typically introverted, so most of my parties are me having a party with me, but small clusters. But there's something that happens in my brain, and Noreen, maybe another conversation could be around this. And I say this many times when I've had a house full of people. And, we've had a meal, we've had maybe a couple drinks, we've sang some songs. My husband plays guitar. So we don't do a lot of dancing, but we have a pool. We'll be in the pool, splashing, laughing, telling jokes. When everyone's gone, I feel elated, but I also sleep better. I wake up in the morning, I feel whole. I feel healthier. I feel my brain is sharper. I feel just really, so I think there's a lot to be said. Now, excess of anything is not what we're proposing, but once in a while, let your hair down, have a big party, put the music on, dance, right?
Yeah. And you made a few good points there about how it improves your sleep. You mentioned laughter.
Yes.
You mentioned, music.
Yeah.
And all food, all of those things are all important.
All important.
Sure.
Okay, good. So what's number 3?
Number 3 is pretty much the opposite to that. If you think about it, it's being able to calm our brain down.
Cool.
Yeah. So whether it's getting a good night's sleep regularly, or taking a practice like meditation or prayer or yoga, and whatever things are fit into your lifestyle. Definitely sleep is on top of that, though. We all need our sleep. So it's learning how to relax our brain so that we can be more clear and think clearly.
Excellent. Good. I'm actually putting these in the post. So
Okay.
you see me busily doing stuff here. Okay, number 4.
Number 4 is to stimulate our brain. Oh. So that's the one that most people think about when they think about keeping their brain fit. They think about doing puzzles and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be a puzzle. It could be any sorts of lifelong learning, taking a course in any topic, studying whatever topic might be of interest to you and going into it deeply. Mm-hmm. Or maybe not go into the subject deeply. Maybe pick a lot of subjects and learn a little bit about a lot of things. Travel. Just any kind of thing where and you mentioned going outside your comfort zone, anything where you're challenging your brain. And you hear also people talk about things like brushing their teeth with the wrong hand, which I think is absurd. But the point is that you're doing something outside of your routine.
Okay.
Driving a different route to a common destination. Just noticing things in a new and different way. So it's challenging your brain in those ways.
Yeah. So learning, I know I pick up books on physics and science, and I generally don't understand it. However, I read it to challenge my brain to go beyond the realm and the scope of what I'm typically reading and absorbing. And I do learn every time one thing. Yeah. And hopefully well enough that I can even have a conversation about it with whoever will listen.
Yes.
So what's number? Okay.
Well, I was just going to say, and the more you learn new things, the more they connect to other things that you know.
Yes.
And those connections are what's important to your brain. Is not just learning random facts, but connecting them to other random facts so that your brain has a whole collection of things that it keeps track of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And number 5.
Number 5 is eating well. So much of what we think about eating healthy for our body is the same as eating for our brain. Our brain actually is part of our body, so it makes sense that it's the same. There are some specific things that are known to benefit our brain as far as eating. And of course,
what's one food? Can you name one food that's
well, one of the most famous, I'll call it, or common, is walnuts. Walnuts have things that are very good for your brain. Yes. Yep. Walnuts are good. One of the things too is not only what we eat, but also what we drink. And so water, of course, we need to keep hydrated.
Yeah,
Dehydration is a serious effect on
it
our.
is. It is. Is there a particular kind of water that is better?
Oh,
Because there's mineral water, distilled water, tap water, sparkling water. Like, we pay a lot of money for this, sparkling water from parts of Europe, for example. Is there a health benefit to it other than
well, I'd stay away from distilled water.
yeah.
So for
And the
sure,
reason is it's
uh,
devoid of any
yeah, distilled water has all of the nutrient, mineral, everything taken out of it.
right.
So if you just, when you leave a drop of water and it leaves a little bit of white around when it
Yeah,
evaporates, those are the minerals and things
the
in the
minerals.
water.
So
There is,
use your distilled water for your aromatherapy, but that's about it.
sure,
Okay.
yes.
So which would you say if you were what water do you drink, Noreen?
We don't drink tap water.
Okay.
But that's because where we are is we have a cistern and it gets hauled like once a month and it sits in our cistern for a whole month. And
Okay. So
so
what would you recommend as the best kind of water then?
we buy our drinking water separate and we buy it from Shoal Lake or whatever and those
Right.
big blue things.
Okay, okay. Yeah. So we buy mineral water in the big containers. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's good.
but I think if you can't afford to purchase that or definitely stay away from the distilled or the reverse osmosis, same thing. There's nothing in it, right?
Yeah, so I guess the thing with tap water is to let it sit, just pour some water, let it sit before you
Yeah.
drink it. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the best solution.
Well, I heard once that if you take tap water and you put it in a container overnight, the chlorine will evaporate.
Oh, okay.
So at least you're not ingesting the chlorine.
Yeah.
And yeah, letting it sit. So healthy foods, lots of water, and walnuts.
Yeah.
I'm putting this in the spell that right. Okay, that's great. I'm just going to hit the chat button on that so that we know what goes through. So to wrap this up, Noreen, this has been so informative. I've learned, many things, and I'm excited that we will be joining together in person in September, like you said. So what would you say would be one thing? We have about 2 minutes left. What would you say would be one thing if you were to only have the opportunity to give people one thing that could improve their brain fitness? What would it be?
Well, I would certainly come back to the idea of social connections. I think that and I come back to it because of the times that we're in right now. And it's summer, so it's good. But in winter, when we're trying to avoid one another, to avoid getting sick, we might take it too far. And so I think it's good to get out and see people from a distance, if need be, or get online and see people that way, create a community, whatever it takes, but stay connected, not only now, but to build the connections, the strength of those connections that will take you into your senior years so that you've got a circle of friends that you can count on to keep your brain fit. It really is important. It's sad when you hear of, sisters fighting and not getting along, or, families that are separated for often maybe not really a big issue. But even if that's the case, find friends to fill that space where you don't have the family. Or your family might just live far away. But the point is, it's important for us to make a point to cultivate those friendships and those connections because it is so beneficial to our brain. Definitely.
Yes. And I would add one thing, and that is to align ourselves with people that we can have engaging, brain tickling, thought-provoking conversations.
Sure. I mean, even if
they're not always our best friends.
Right.
They could be. And so I think, what I'm hearing you say is expand yourself into other circles. So you have, your circle of family, you have your circle of best friends that, you may have been friends for 40 years. And we all have evolved and we all have different interests as we go through life, and finding people who love the topics you like to talk about and get on those calls or go for coffee when it's appropriate and have engaging, deep conversations about what's important to us, I think, for me, really stimulates my brain. And laugh. People who we can laugh with, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Everyone has different sense of humor, so that's another.
True enough.
So, Noreen, this has just been so engaging and informative, and I know we could talk forever, as we have proven over the years. We've had many really wonderful, engaging conversations, and I do appreciate your friendship and your camaraderie. We've been business partners. We've done events together, you and I, over the years. They've been so much fun. I'm so looking forward to the event in September, where you will be one of our ambassadors. So going back to our audience, the Expand Your Influence event is September 19 and 20, 2020 in Winnipeg. And we have the Facebook group, which this is being live on, as well as YouTube. And my dog is just coming into the office now. And hey, Daisy. One day we'll get her on screen. And so that's, having a pet, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I've heard it said you should never live in a house by yourself.
Right. There you
go. So even if it's a plant,
you
need to
have a plant.
Something else living besides you.
Yeah. Open the windows, let the flies in. You can have.
There you go.
So how can people reach you? What would be a couple of ways that people can connect with you?
Sure. My website is Mindstage, MINDSTAG, all one word, .ca. And they can find me there or email me at Noreen@mindstage.ca.
Okay, I think I've got that in the chat box there, because that will be there for later as well. Thank you so much, Noreen. Get outside. It's an activity. Eat some walnuts. Laugh. Meditate a little. And stimulate. Your brain today.
And I was stimulating. I enjoyed this conversation a lot. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.